What's going on, everyone? So we are less than 24 hours away from the Lakers officially having everyone on the roster available for trade outside of Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis. But pretty much everyone else is open season, and the Lakers can start making some moves, start making some trades. The Lakers have heavily underperformed this season. It's been a real disappointment, especially after all the hype and excitement and the way that the roster looked going into the season. The Lakers are currently out of the play-in entirely. They are the 11th seed, sitting at 19-21, which is funny because last season, through 40 games, the Lakers were exactly 19-21. That just shows just how bad this season has been. And the thing is that, like, at least last year, you never questioned that team's effort. Right? The problem was they just didn't have the talent, and they were undersized. They were a bunch of like 6'1" point guards with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But at least they brought it every night. The problem with this team is they just don't bring it every night. They're not locked in. They're not focused. I mean, we were better defensively in many aspects last season with the smaller lineup than we were this season with a bigger lineup. It's really strange and odd, but something needs to be done. Some changes, some trades need to happen. And beginning tomorrow, or well, depending on when you're watching this, the 15th is when everything will officially be able to start to happen. Now, will something happen? That's the real question here. Will a trade get done tomorrow? Right? Zach Lavine and Dejounte Murray are the two big names that kind of are the front runners as far as landing with the Lakers. Lakers landing one, Lakers maybe potentially even landing both. Time will tell. We will see. But I wouldn't get your hopes up on a trade being done on the 15th. Very rarely does stuff actually get done right on the day that everything gets finalized, unless it's like the trade deadline, of course. But there's a lot of time between now and the trade deadline. Teams aren't incentivized to necessarily make a trade because the bad teams, they don't care. They're going to be bad regardless. The good teams, they're still trying to figure out what pieces are we okay with letting go with, what options are out there. And the teams that are sellers, they want to get the best return possible. And the longer you wait, the closer you get to the trade deadline, the more desperate some teams start to become, and the more you could drive up the price. The other issue, too, is that the Lakers are in a position of desperation, right? They can't wait till the trade deadline. If they get a trade done by the trade deadline, it might not even be worth making a trade anymore, right? Because if the Lakers are 8 games, because they still have 12 games between now and the trade deadline, something like that. So if they lose 8 of those 12, right? Now the Lakers are 6 games under 500. Well, guess what? At that point, there's no reason to make a trade anymore. Now, that could be a leverage point for the Lakers, right? Because think about it. If you're the Lakers, you're going to have teams that are arguing, hey, do you really want to waste this season? Do you really want to run this season out? If you don't get this trade done, then hey, you could be missing the play-in and a wash season, and it's a dead season. So we want, everything you have. We want your first, your pick swap. We want Austin Reeves. You got 3 or 4 seconds? We want those too. We want all that. The counter for the Lakers, and what would be my counter, is like, yes, you're right. If we wait till the trade deadline, we're going to be dead in the water. But if we get to that point, then there's no point in trading anymore, is there? And now, I don't think that would be leverage in a Dejounte Murray trade because there is a lot of other competition out there. There are several other teams that are interested in Dejounte Murray. But Zach Lavine, that is the trade where I think that could be a good leverage argument, right? And we even just got a report from Brian Windhorst that the Bulls are they would trade Zach Lavine in the next 5 minutes if they could. So if any trade was to happen, my money would be on Zach Lavine happening sooner rather than later. Because Chicago also, they want to get a trade done long before the trade deadline, which is in the Lakers' favor. And the reason Chicago wants to get a trade done long before the trade deadline, Zach Lavine, and the reason Chicago wants to trade him has nothing to do with his play. They know he's a good player, but the relationship is done. doesn't get along with Billy Donovan. He doesn't get along with the front office. There were reports dating back to last season that he doesn't get along with DeMar DeRozan, and they have been winning games without him. Yes, they're 4-1 with him since his return, but the relationship is done. And last thing they want is there to be toxicity in the locker room. There isn't currently, because Zach Lavine needs to play nice. All right, he's came in, he's played the role that has been asked of him. He's played more off ball. He's been more willing as a passer and playmaker. He's been averaging 6 assists a game, right? He's been playing more the way that the Lakers would need him to play, which I also think is very interesting. Because if he was to go to the Lakers, he's going to have to play that way. And he's showing the willingness to play that way, which is a good sign and signal for the Lakers. But Chicago, they want to unload Zach Lavine, get a look at what they look like, and then go in a direction by the trade deadline. Okay, are we trading DeMar DeRozan? Are we trading Alex Caruso? Are we able to trade Vu? What pieces do we need to kind of build around this group here? Right? They don't want to wait till the trade deadline, because come the trade deadline, that's it. And now they're not going to have a good idea and good vision. But if they get a trade done, say, this next week, well, then that gives them basically like, a handful of games, if not more, to kind of get a good look at, okay, what else do we need? What direction should we go? What about next season and beyond? That's the idea. And when it comes to Zach Lavine and being a locker room issue, again, he's good right now. But if he's still on the Bulls come the trade deadline, well, then now it's like, I don't have to play nice anymore because you can't trade me and I'm stuck. And now there could be some rift in the organization. And that's what Chicago doesn't want. So if you're the Lakers, you're in a position of like, hey, we might be the only team interested in trading for Zach Lavine. And if we get to the trade deadline and we're terrible and there's no reason to trade for Zach Lavine, then why would we do that when we could just, in the season, we can get to the draft day and the Lakers would have 3 first-round picks, and it's like, well, maybe Donovan Mitchell becomes available in the offseason, and we could trade all 3 firsts to go get Donovan Mitchell, right? So there's no guarantee that we're still going to need or want Zach Lavine come then, and you kind of can flip it to Chicago, right? Look, Chicago and the Lakers, it would be mutually beneficial. You're clearing off Zach Lavine's cap space, right? The Lakers get what they need in a consistent go-to scorer. The Bulls get what they need, and just clearing off his salary, getting him out of the organization, getting in some new players to kind of figure out whatever, right? It's a win-win, mutually beneficial thing. Now, the Dejounte Murray part of it, that is where it gets tough. Because again, there are other teams very interested in Dejounte Murray. There are other teams that may be willing to pony up. And it would be in Atlanta's best interest to wait till the trade deadline to draw up demand and see if maybe one of these teams get desperate and are willing to sell the farm, right? So the whole idea of like, well, we could say, well, we wouldn't, well, if we get, and we're terrible, then we're not going to trade for Dejounte Murray. Atlanta could be like, that's fine, right? We're going to be bad regardless. We're going to be terrible. Chicago's trying to win. Atlanta's trying to do the opposite. Chicago and Atlanta are in 2 very different situations. Atlanta is fully embracing, okay, let's just rebuild around Johnson and Young, right? Get rid of everyone else. So they're willing to kind of unload everything. Now, that could be good for the Lakers in regards to maybe you could get other pieces, right? Could you get a Dejounte Murray, a Clint Capella, and like a Bogdanovich, right? There was a report that the Atlanta Hawks would be willing to include those guys in any potential deal, right, on top of Dejounte Murray, right? But there doesn't seem to be a lot of hype for a Clint Capella because most teams already have their center. Most teams already have that big man locked up, and he's making $20 million a year, right? Bogdanovich, he's a guy that definitely there's multiple teams that would be very interested in. But, if you're the Lakers, could you kind of be like, hey, we'll take all 3 of them and clear it all at once, one swoop, and now you work something out in that regard, right? Because Dejounte Murray's new extension doesn't kick in till next season. So he's only making like 18 million. So you could technically go get Dejounte Murray, Clint Capella, and Bogdanovich all in one swoop and bring them all to the Lakers, which that could be great, right? But again, I think either 2 things happen. I think either A, the Lakers get Dejounte Murray and, like I said, Clint Capella, Bogdanovich, and that's like closer to the trade deadline, or the Lakers end up getting Zach Lavine within the next week. That's kind of where I'm at. Again, I don't know this for certain. It's just a guess. It's just an idea. To me, it also comes down to, will the Lakers actually trade Austin Reeves? Now, I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm also curious to see, how do the trade shape up, right? So let's use Zach Lavine first. If the Lakers trade for Zach Lavine, right? Again, I don't necessarily think they do it tomorrow, but let's say the Lakers trade for Zach Lavine. What does that package entail? If the Lakers get Zach Lavine for, say, D'Lo, Rui, Gabe Vincent, and like a pick swap, right? And let's say they get Andre Drummond in the deal, whatever, right? Okay, so they got their backup center. They got their shooting guard. Well, they would still have Austin Reeves. You'd still have a guy like a Taurean Prince if need be. Also, you'd have like Jalen Hood-Schifino, whatever. Because remember, Dejounte Murray is only making like 17 and a half, let's call it 18 million to be safe, because the Lakers are hard capped, so they can't risk going over, right? They have to basically match salaries. So if you still have Austin Reeves and you still have a first round pick, right? And then you still have, Taurean Prince, Jalen Hood-Schifino. You could always throw in, Jackson Hayes, whatever, right? The other salaries. Mainly, if you still have Austin Reeves in a first, then now the Lakers could go get Dejounte Murray, right? Because what you could do is you could get, like, let's say the Lakers get the trade done this week. You could now have Zach Lavine, put him on the roster, give it a little time, give it the next handful of games or whatever to see, okay, how is it looking? Are we able to make it work with Skylar Mays as the backup guard? Are we able to make it work with Austin Reeves as the secondary playmaker? Can Zach Lavine help in that regard? Do we need a Dejounte Murray, or do we need something else? Right? Should we flip Austin Reeves into something else? Or is Austin Reeves still an issue? Does he get neutralized by Zach Lavine, which is a real issue I have, right? If the Lakers can get the Zach Lavine trade done ASAP, then that would give the Lakers an opportunity to kind of gauge between now and the trade deadline, because I do think Zach Lavine by himself will help the Lakers win more games than not, to where I believe the Lakers will be able to stay afloat in order to get to the trade deadline. And then now by the trade deadline, you can see, should we go get Dejounte Murray and just kind of push the chips to the table? Or should we maybe go target a Dorian Finney-Smith? Can we get Dorian Finney-Smith and maybe like a Royce O'Neal, right? Can we go get, something like a Miles Bridges and, let's say you didn't get Andre Drummond. Can you get a Miles Bridges and like a Nick Richards, right? Like, that would be great. My point is that I think you get the Zach Lavine trade done ASAP Rocky. And then, if you can get that for, again, a reasonable amount, well, then now you can kind of ride this until the trade deadline. It kind of puts you in a position, and then now you could go look and see, okay, are we pushing our chips in for Dejounte Murray? Are we pushing our chips in for something else? How are we going to approach this? How are we going to go about it, right? Maybe you can get a Dejounte Murray and Sadiq Bey, right? And now you got Sadiq Bey, Dejounte Murray, Zach Lavine, Andre Drummond to add to LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt. That's kind of how I look at it. But look, I fully trust and believe in Rob Pelinka. He's a guy that has proven time and time again that he's going to be patient and do what is best for the organization. And if he can find the deal there and he can make the deal work and he can make it make sense, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. But I think it ultimately just depends on what do the other teams want. Because, look, Rob Pelinka knows just as well as we do that we need to get a deal done sooner rather than later. But can the Lakers make that happen? Can the Lakers find that viable deal that's like, okay, this is the move? I don't expect it tomorrow. Again, if it happens tomorrow, I will be jumping up and down. I will be a kid in a candy store. I will be so excited. Whether it's Zach Lavine or Dejounte Murray or anybody, any type of trade right now, I would be excited for it because the Lakers just need a new look. They need a new face, a new freshness. Don't underestimate the value of adding in new freshness. I mean, seriously, it goes a long way. So I hope something happens tomorrow, but again, I wouldn't expect it. I think best case scenario, something happens by this time next week, right? This time next week, we're looking at a trade. But for something to happen at midnight or, immediately, by mid next day, that I don't know. I hope so. Fingers are crossed. Believe me, fingers are crossed. But don't expect it. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you think a trade happens tomorrow? Do you want a trade to happen tomorrow? Do you think something needs to get done ASAP? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.